Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna go through step by step how to install a pre-hung door unit. All right, so we're gonna take you step by step, show you how to do it, and in the end, we'll have a door hung. All right, so here is our pre-hung door unit. As you can see, it comes, the door unit itself. Pre-hung essentially means the jamb and the hinges, which are over on the back side here, are already put together. So it's a pre-hung unit, okay? So the manufacturer's already done the work for us to some degree. So they built the door versus a conventional or building a door from scratch, a door and a jamb from scratch. But there's a couple things you wanna make sure you factor in when ordering these units, okay? So tape measure, Ben. There he is. Hello!
Hey!
Okay, so I need Ben's plasticking off our opening, right? To make sure we don't...
Plastic specialist.
Plastic specialist. But yeah, we just want to make sure we're working, you know, safe and clean and keeping everything out of the way. But here's our opening, okay? You can see the opening's already been rough framed, okay? So the opening's there. Now we got to install the door in place, okay? So we have our wood framing, which has already been installed. You can see up underneath here. And then we've got it covered with drywall. Okay, so our drywall's been installed, our frame has been installed, now we're ready to install the door. So you wanna make sure when you're ordering doors typically come in 2-inch increments. Okay, so even numbers. Very rarely are you gonna find a door, or very rarely are you gonna find a pre-hung door assembly with an odd number. So in this case, we have an existing opening. This opening was supposed to be a 34-inch opening, okay? Because we ordered a 32-inch door. So your opening size, in this case is a 32-inch opening. You wanna make sure that you have 2 inches over, plus or minus, on your rough dimensions. So your wood framing and your drywall, you make sure the opening is 2 inches bigger than the door unit. Okay, so let's go back over to the door unit. This is the hinge side. We've got our door, and then we've got our jamb. Okay, so we wanna take a look and see now what did we order? We ordered a 32-inch door. The frame itself and the pre-hung assembly is bigger than 32 inches because we've got the frame that holds the hinges and allows the door to, you know, safely operate and function properly, okay? So the door unit is 32, okay, 32-inch door. And then we've got our jamb material, which is typically 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so 3/4 plus 3/4 is about 1.5 inches. And so we like to have our opening 2 inches bigger to allow for shimming and imperfect framing. You know, if it's not plumb or square, we can adjust it accordingly. Okay, so door unit plus 2 inches. That's standard operating business. Same thing with the top, the head height, okay? So in this case, we've got roughly 81 inches, 81 and 82 inches. So you wanna make sure that your head or the top also has play, 2 inches, 1.5 inches. So yeah, so as we come over here, you can see we've got an existing wood framing member up in here. We wanna check our opening. And we're gonna find pretty quickly that, remember we had 82 inches as our door height. We only have roughly 78 right now in the clear, which means that this door unit is gonna have to be modified to be able to fit the opening, or we would adjust the framing to accommodate the taller door. In this case, we're not gonna be able to accommodate or edit the framing. And the reason why is because if you look, we've got stairs on the inside of the house that come down. So this closet is basically a little closet underneath the stairs, okay? So the ceiling goes down dramatically. So by raising this up, the door's not gonna be able to work because we've got the stairs in the way, all right? So in lieu of, you know, editing the framing, we're gonna cut the door down. We'll walk you through how that process is gonna work. But typically your options are raise the header up or make sure your opening is the right size for the door and then install the door, or edit the door as needed, all right? Do you have any?
Yeah. Oh, you said it right.
I said it right?
Yep.
Hey, you kind of. Yep. The next step was gonna be to make sure that our opening is gonna be able to fit the door width. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna, you know, gently see if we can, you know, push the trimmers. These are wood trimmers. Okay, this is what the door gets fastened to, these wood trimmers. See if we can push the trimmers over a little bit, all right, to gain a little clearance. And then we'll shave the drywall as needed. We just kind of gently kind of push, you can see we're picking up a little bit of room. Not much, but a little bit. So So if anybody's sleeping inside, they'll wake up right now. So this is good, right? So it kind of serves a dual purpose. I like to hit the nails. Ben took a fine tool or a multi-use tool and he shaved the drywall off of the trimmers, the excess drywall. This is gonna allow us now to get in there and install the jamb. So try to get the trimmers over, take the fine tool, multi-tool, shave the drywall off, clean up the opening, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, guys, so now that we've got the opening ready, the next step is to cut our door jamb down, our door height, okay? Because remember, we addressed the width. Now we need to address the height because the height is not gonna work with the door, with the pre-hung door unit that we bought. So we go over here and we take a look at what our existing condition is, okay? And we've got, I'm gonna cut the door down. If you could see my tape measure, it's tight at 78 1/4. All right, I'm gonna cut the door down to 77 3/4. That'll give us about a 1/2 inch of play. 77 3/4, which should be plenty. Okay, I'm gonna measure down from the top, 77 3/4. 77 3/4. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. From here, I'm gonna scribe this down. I'm gonna take a skill saw, okay, or a circular saw, and cut this off. Cut these off. Then I'm gonna mark the door, okay, and I'm gonna measure the door up about a 1/2 inch from where I cut, and I'm gonna cut the door. Okay, so we'll cut the jambs first and then the door. So here's our cut line. That's what we call a cut line. That's our cut line for the door jamb. Remember, we measured up, down from the top, 77 3/4, okay? From here, I'm gonna go up another 1/2 inch. I'm gonna leave, actually I'm gonna go a little more, like 9/16, okay? And the reason why we do that is so the door, as you can see, the pre-hung assembly, it comes with the door smaller than the door jamb. Okay, so the door, this is the bottom of the door jamb. You can see that the door's a little bit short, okay, of the bottom of the door jamb. And the reason why that is so that you can open and close the door without there being any restrictions or friction or anything to impede the operation and function of the door. So we're gonna do the same thing here. We just have to mimic exactly what came from the manufacturer. We're just modifying it to accommodate our opening. Same thing here, 1/2 inch or 9/16, all right? And this will be where we cut our door. And I'm gonna tape this right above the line where we cut. So I'm gonna set my blade, these circular saws have a lot of multi-function options. One of them being the table that's supposed to sit on the cutting surface adjusts. All right, I'm gonna adjust this so that I don't cut through my door, okay? So you can see right here, I'm adjusting the table to accommodate just the depth of the jamb thickness, okay? I don't wanna cut too far into the door. There's really no reason to do that. It's gonna damage it, so. Now we make our cut. We've cut our jamb. Okay, now the next step is to cut the door. In order to cut the door without cutting the jamb, you can sit, remember it's shorter than the jamb. We gotta remove the door from the jamb. In order to do that, we pop the hinges or take the pin out of these hinges. I just grab a nail, just a nail and a hammer, and there's a hole at the bottom of the hinge. And I just hit that, take it out, save these pins for later reinstall. Okay, you want to save these pins. We don't want to lose them. So what we're doing now, guys, is we're disassembling the jamb, all right? You see, we've got our jamb separate from our door, okay? I'm gonna take the jamb over to the opening, and now we're gonna cut the bottom of our door, get it ready.
Okay guys, so now we are getting ready to cut the door. So we already measured it, we know exactly where to cut it. I just wanted to point out that there are several ways to cut a door. We can use a guide, we can use a skill saw.
Freehand it.
Hand saw it, however you want to do it. Today, because the door is not painted, it's just a prime door, raw door, we are still going to be working on it. We are just going to freehand it, free cut it, just following the line.
Straight as you can.
And then we are going to take a sander and sand the edges, and then we will install the door. Once the door is installed, our painter is going to take the door down, sand it, prep it, paint it on all sides. So that's why we don't have to use a guide today, but we are still going to cut it straight and nicely.
Now you can judge how straight and nice I cut. So the reason why I put the tape there, guys, is a couple reasons. I want to make sure that my table or my fence on the saw doesn't mar up the primed door, right? I don't want to scratch it. The other reason is if I put a piece of tape here, when I run the blade through it, there's less opportunity for the cut to kind of flare out or flake because you're cutting cross grain here. You want to make sure that you don't have a bunch of nicks in the door. Okay, so very important on real wood doors, where you're going to stain. We've got our door jamb in the opening, ready to go. Okay, it's going to be tight. We know that it's going to be tight to fit. But if you can look on the back side here, the manufacturer hinges and the screws they use poke through the back side of the jamb. All right, normally this is not an issue. Okay, we would leave them, but since we're so limited on space, I'm gonna actually remove these hinges temporarily while we put the jamb in. Once it's nailed off and ready to go, then we'll put the hinges back on. Our hinges off, we've got them set aside, we kept all the screws. Now we're ready to install our door jamb. To do that, we've got a cordless finished nail gun. We're using 15 gauge, 2.5 inch long nails. Standard door application as far as finished nails, you wanna use a 15 gauge typically.
It's a solid core door, it's pretty heavy. So you have to make sure you use the correct nail gun for this. You don't want to use 18 gauge nail guns. That's what we use to install baseboards. 15 gauge is what you want to use for interior doors.
With that, we've got packages of shims. Buy these at your local hardware store. Our friends over at Lowe's were so gracious enough to gift us these, so we're thankful for that.
Gifted to us?
They gifted it to us. I went to buy them, and the guy in the back said, "Please, you come in here all the time."
He is a YouTube celebrity, that's why.
These shims are cool because they're tapered, right? So they go from basically nothing to something. So this allows us, as we install them in the sides of the jamb and in the top, it allows us to get the jamb perfectly plumb and square. So when we install the door, we don't have any issues. What we like to do is just, make sure that the jamb's gonna go in perfectly, right? Remember, we were working with a tight application, so we knew it was gonna be tight ahead of time. We cut our door jamb down, so now it fits. And then I'll like to work up, stick a shim underneath here ahead of time, just in case we need to work on plumbing So now we've got our shims underneath, right? Our jamb is in, and I'm gonna take a level now. This is a 6-foot level. Take a level and kind of see what the jamb is doing in relation to the opening right now. So what my level's telling me is the bottom needs to go all the way over. So I'm gonna set a nail in the jamb temporarily. It's gonna hold it in place. We can adjust this as we go. I'm just kind of setting it temporarily now. I'm gonna work my way up. You see right here, it's pretty much saying I'm perfect. If anything, I need to go a little bit at the top that way. So I'll put a shim. I'm gonna knock this over at the top. Try to get it as close to plumb as we possibly can. That's really pretty good. Now we're gonna check this side. It looks like the bottom needs to go over. We're just setting one nail right now, okay, just to kind of keep everything from moving too dramatically. We've got the corners kind of set. I'm gonna check this side of the jamb to see how bad this is. The reason why we do this, guys, is because when the door opens and closes, we want to make sure that it closes nice. It doesn't close uneven, otherwise it won't hit the jamb stop evenly. And same thing, top needs to go in a little bit, and the bottom needs to come out. You want to make sure that you're checking both directions. So now we come along, I always usually work on my hinge side first. So you got your hinge side, and then you got your door handle size. The hinge side is most important because that's where the weight of the door is when you open and close it. You want to make sure that that's perfect. And then you work your way over to the opposite side. So I'm pretty good on plumb, top and bottom. I'm checking my reveal. If you can see between the jamb and the level, you want that line to be perfect the whole way. You don't want there to be any variance. The same thing down here. I'm checking to make sure that the level is touching on my jamb and on the level. And then as I work my way up, I'm looking for gaps, okay? So you can see right here, there's a little tiny gap. I'll stick a shim in there, kind of work it over. And then I'm just gonna kind of work my way up. A little bit of a gap there. And again, I'm just kind of fine tuning as we go here. My goal is to have no reveal between the level and the jam. As you work your way along, you're gonna find that the shims are gonna wanna move a little bit on you, okay? That's because what you do to one part of the jam is gonna affect the other. So what I'll do now is I'll kind of put a nail in. I won't put a nail in on the shim itself just yet. Okay, you can see where the shim is engaged to the door jamb. I wanna put it just above or below. And the reason why we do that is so we still have the flexibility to adjust the shim. If you nail through the shim, you're kind of locked in. You're not going to be able to adjust it anymore. You always want to give yourself an out, right? Last thing we want to check and make sure is our head. We want to make sure our head is square so that when we close the door, it's going to close smoothly. So I usually take like a speed square. I'm going to put this up in my corner, and if it rocks, see how it's rocking a little bit? And this one's not rocking. Here's a better example. This is an L square, and this gives you a better idea. See, it's not hitting perfect. It's close, but you can see that there's a small gap here. So if anything, what I want to do is I want to lower this side down a little bit or raise this side up to kind of offset that imperfect square. Not a huge deal, but it will come into factor. I'm going to knock this corner down a little bit. I felt it come down, and it's already better. You'll notice in the middle here, what I like to do when I set my doors is I like to have the middle crowned in a little bit, okay, as opposed to out. If it's crowned out, in other words, if this part of the jamb is pushed too far this way, the door will not close properly. If it's crowned in towards the trimmer, it will not hurt the operational function of the door at all. This is only in the middle, okay? Otherwise, it's perfectly straight. I'm just gonna slowly add shims where needed so that I have even support. And remember, the hinge side, which is this side of the door, is more important, and it's better to have more shims on that side of the door versus the strike side. Okay, the strike side is good. You want to make sure it doesn't move. It's perfectly straight, but this is where all the weight is on the door jamb itself. Okay, so all the weight is going to be pulling from this side, so I want to make sure that you have ample support here. So now we're good. Now I'm gonna start going through and nailing off my shims. So I'm gonna go right above, right below. Again, I'm not nailing the shims yet. My next step would be to install the hinges, okay? So I'm just creating support, support, and support. Now, I go to my hinges. Now that we've got the door jamb kind of where we need it, or where we think we need it, it's time to install the hinges. So now that we've installed our hinges, now we're ready to install the door. Ben just finished sanding the door. All right, we're gonna bring the door over and we're gonna set it on the hinges with those pins that we saved from removal from before. One. All right, and knock them down. And then we just kind of see how it's working. You can see there, it's opening and closing, okay? It's a little tight here. And then it's open at the bottom, right? So what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna shim this over so we get a really nice reveal. Okay, but all in all, not too bad. But now we fine tune this side. So we put our shims in here, right? And we kind of lock this in place. Now we're gonna go on the other side and do the exact same thing, create that nice margin, okay? A little bit as much as I can. See, it's hitting here, so I'm gonna put a nail in here to try and cinch this over a little bit. Okay, same thing here. Down here at the bottom, you can see it's a little bit off. See, as I knock that in, it brings the door over, the jamb. Just want it to stay somewhat true all the way down. It looks pretty good right there. Now I'll go through and put nails in. 100%. Now I'll go back through here on the other side now that we're in good shape, and I'll put an extra nail or two back through those shims. Actually through the shims this time, so they don't move. Last thing we're gonna do, guys, we're gonna check the top, the head. You can see we wanna make sure that the reveal's the same. So here you've got a little bit over an eighth, in the middle, looks like it's crowned up. So we're gonna add a couple shims to bring that top down so that that margin is the same. Put some nails in there and we're ready to go. Last step of the door installation process is to install the door handle. Cool. Next step is to install the door handle. Okay, in this case, we bought a quick set handle from Amazon. You can get them at Lowe's, Home Depot, any hardware store. It's called a passage door handle. There's no special features other than it just kind of operates in and out, right? You can get ones with locks on them. You can get specialty deadbolts, which are a separate assembly. But in this case, we just got a passage. Okay, so as we open up the box, we see it kind of comes like this. They all come a little bit different. We take the door out, right? And then there's two parts, okay? So we've got the one part that goes on one side of the door. We've got the other part that goes on the other side of the door. Door goes in the middle. Also comes with a little bag of screws. This is our strike. This is what goes up against the door jamb, okay? And this is for a part of the handle that goes on the door itself. Our actual open and close, this is what keeps the door open and closed.
Guys, so now I'm going to install the door hardware. What I like to do on those is I always pre-drill. With a very tiny drill bit, I always pre-drill the location of my screws. They don't stick out of the striker plate. So the first step is to install the interior mechanism. Put this right here. That's where I'm pre-drilling, you know, they have special tool for this, just a regular pre-drill, oops. Just a regular pre-drill is fine. Don't go all the way yet, just do both screws. You can see the screw heads are flush, that's very important. When this is done, we are ready to install the actual door handle. So when I install my door handle, I put my level on it to make sure I'm perfectly straight. Here. Hand tight the screw first to make sure you're catching the holes on the other side. And here, little tip on the drill. Or make sure you have an extension on your drill so you don't mar up the door hardware when you drill. Okay. And then I put my torpedo level on it. You can see I'm completely off here. There you go. Yeah, fine. And same thing on the other side. Perfectly good. All right, and now we just have to do the little striker plate. So same idea as before. I'm going to pre-drill it.
Look at that.
There you go.
Like he's done it before. So that's it, guys. Pretty simple process, right? So, okay, remember in the very beginning, we came to our opening, we had an opening, we knew it wasn't gonna fit, right? We had an existing opening that was too tight. So we widened it out a little bit by taking the sledgehammer and gently knocking out the trimmers, okay? From there, we took the drywall down by using a multi-tool, okay? Cleaned it all up, got the space ready, took the door over to the sawhorses, measured our existing head height opening, trimmed the door jamb down, as well as the door unit itself, brought everything back, okay? Now we're ready to install. We started on our hinge side. You can see we've still got our hinges going, okay? We worked our way up and around to this back side, making sure that we had nice clean margin all the way down. Once we were able to establish that, we finished nailing our shims in, put our hinges back on, set the door, made sure everything was working properly, and then Ben just finished installing the door hardware. So it's a methodical process. It's something that anybody can do. You just kind of go step by step. Start with your opening, make sure that the door unit's gonna fit, and then kind of work your way back, okay? And then just follow the quick, easy steps that we gave you guys to install, and anybody can do this, okay? Last thing we gotta do here is clean up and shave off our shims, which are hanging out, clean everything up, and unveil this for functional use. So our door is in, it's fully functioning. We cleaned up our plastic, took everything off, swept up. Now we're ready to use the door for functional use. So if you guys liked the video, please let us know. Click the link below. We'd love to hear your feedback. We'll be posting regular videos with cool, fun content. So thanks again for joining, and I think it turned out okay.
You tell us.